Maya Angelou, the renowned poet, once said, "When people show you who they are, believe them." From an early age, we all have been taught best behaviors by our parents that guide us throughout life. These best practices should also transfer to the workplace, from the field of teaching to corporate executives to the field of real estate. Fortunately, now that we are in the digital age, we have innovative technology like mobile learning strategies that lend themselves to our learning curves. My question to you today is, does ethics in the workplace matter? Hello, classmates and Dr. Sanchez. My name is DemetricePearson, and I am presenting to you my graduate research project using the canons of ethics and mobile learning technology to train new real estate agents in the real estate industry. I appreciate you for taking the time to listen to my project, and I look forward to your comments and feedback. Now, yes, we all know that the workforce is changing with the new digital age, innovative technology. It is changing. And this prompts the method of training and delivery to change, a change to e-learning and upgrade. The objective of this presentation is to review training and development practices for implementation of ethics, as well as methods and delivery for such as mobile learning or M-learning for new real estate agents, their advantages and disadvantages, as well as some suggestions that I have for future studies. Classmates, this presentation will elaborate the following parts. In the introduction, who is a real estate agent? What does ethics mean? What are the canons of ethics for realtors? What are some e-learning techniques? What are some advantages of traditional versus blended learning? What are some disadvantages of technology-based learning? What does the research say? In the literature review, what are the limitations and what are the methods and implications of such? Finally, in the evaluation, a synthesis, utilizing a systematic technology approach, embedding social media, mobile learning within that organization, and offering coaching and mentoring, perhaps, inclusive with a diversified approach for all realtors. I have some future recommendations to make along with the conclusion. Let's get started. So, who is a real estate agent, you might ask? A real estate agent is a state licensed individual who has passed an exam to qualify them to represent individuals who buy and sell both commercial as well as residential properties. Your real estate agent should be your fiduciary. What is a fiduciary? A fiduciary is a person who is faithful, loyal, and trustworthy. A fiduciary relationship is one that implies a position of trust, hard to come by, and confidence, much like a pastor does, like the one in the picture. This word is so crucial, the embodiment of ethics. What are ethics? It's concepts of right and wrong behavior. Doctors, attorneys, accountants, all of them who are professional individuals follow these codes of ethics, or they should. And the real estate industry is no different. You don't want it to be said of your real estate agent, having been told you during a real estate transaction that the home prices only go up, trying only to get a commission. You don't want to have your marketing of your home to be misleading. Any misleading images in advertising, if it looks one way online, you go and visit the property, it's a whole different situation. I'm telling you, code of ethics is critical in every situation. First, I want to tell you 5 things that a new realtor or a seasoned realtor should have. Then we would discuss best methods of learning those things. Those things are the 5 canons of ethics. In real estate, we call it the golden rule. You know how your parents taught you to treat others the way you wanted to be treated, which was the golden rule? It applies also in business. The 5 canons of ethics are fidelity, integrity, competency, consumer information form, and illegal discriminatory practices. Real estate professionals must not only be prepared to meet the duties and obligations required by law, but they got to keep ethics at the forefront of their everyday practices. By following this golden rule when dealing with potential clients and customers, licensees will earn a reputation for operating at a high standard. This leads to referrals and repeat business, which is what keeps us in business. We all want that. Ethics is a set of principles or values by which an individual guides his or her own behavior and judges that of others. It is frequently defined as a system of moral principles or standards that govern the conduct of members of a group, such as Texas Canons of Professional Ethics. Or if you are a realtor and you're a part of a professional organization, it's called the Code of Ethics that realtors must follow. Ethics refers to our business and social conduct and our attitudes toward others. Professional ethical standards are the foundation for a successful real estate career. The ability to do repeat business is a direct function of doing business in an ethical manner. Otherwise, you won't go back to them. A sales agent should align with a brokerage firm that adheres to both legal and ethical business practices. Now, it's important to follow all the correct procedures for transaction paperwork, advertising, trust funds, and fair housing practices. But as a real estate professional, your livelihood will depend on the integrity of your brokers employing the broker's license. Therefore, it is so important to choose a brokerage firm that follows all legal and ethical business practice. Now, with that being said, a brokerage firm must adhere to all fair housing laws. Now, I understand that determining the proper course of action is not always easy. For many real estate licensees, the need to make a living can get us into trouble. It can get in the way of doing what is right. Therefore, it may be need rather than greed. What they do not understand is that real estate professionals can make as much money or more money by being ethical. I know what I'm talking about because 17 years of real estate, I've lived by this principle. Texas real estate license holders must follow the Texas Real Estate Commission's Canon of Professional Ethics. That's the governing board, and they set out conducts for licensees. Real estate brokerage firms should use ethics training as part of orientation. So this presentation is for that. The ethical behavior to be taught and practiced in a company is behavior that is consistent with those principles, norms, standards of practice, and have been established by and are in agreement with society's norms. So over time, a real estate company will reflect the beliefs and behavior of management. So if management practices an ethical behavior, the long-time associates will also reflect that behavior in their actions. So I said that to say this, that it is so important to choose a real estate agent that practices the golden rule. Fidelity is the first canon of ethics. It is so important to act as a fiduciary. When acting as an agent for a client, you act as the fiduciary, which means a position of trust. That means that the licensee needs to make his or her positions clear to all parties and treat other parties to the transaction fairly, even if you don't represent them. Both faithful and observant to the trust placed in him by the client. The licensee must perform his duties scrupulously and meticulously and place no personal interest above the client's interest. This has been the downfall of many realtors, not just new ones, but many seasoned ones. Of utmost importance is the second canon of ethics, integrity. Integrity first. A real estate broker or sales agent has a special obligation to exercise integrity in the discharge of his or her responsibilities. That includes employment of prudence and caution to avoid misrepresentation in any manner by acts of commission or omission. That means unethical behavior like finger behind your back, saying one thing and doing another. That's a no-no. Do what you do when no one is looking. That's integrity. The third canon is a cornerstone of ethics, competency. It is the obligation of the realtor to be knowledgeable as a real estate professional. I'm going to tell you about a quick case study. The owner of a residential property entered into a property management agreement with a broker, and the broker advised the owner to accept this tenant from the City of Houston Section 8 voucher that was less than the rental amount listed for the property. The broker also advised the owner to accept a payment of additional money outside that written lease agreement. The broker then prepared and the owner signed a lease which lowered the rent to the voucher amount, but it increased the security deposit. In addition to that, the broker prepared a lease addendum citing past due, although the rents were not past due. Finally, the broker advised the owner in an email to leave her belongings in the house and to let the Section 8 inspector mistakenly think that the personal property belonged to the prospective tenant. Although the owner eventually terminated the listing agreement with the broker and found a new tenant, the owner filed a complaint with TREC, Texas Real Estate Commission. Result of that, the broker entered into an agreement order with TREC admitting that she failed to be knowledgeable as a real estate brokerage practitioner. That was a violation of TREC rules and that they acted negligently or incompetently in their role as an agent for the owner. And there was a violation in Texas. TREC reprimanded that broker, assessed an administrative penalty of $500, and ordered the broker to take 30 classroom hours in a property management course. You don't want that to be you. You don't want that to be your real estate agent. You don't want somebody whispering saying, man, I really don't know or think that he knows what he or she is doing. Don't let that be your real estate agent. Each active real estate broker or real estate inspector must display information about brokerage services the first time they see their clients, whether they are a client or a customer. This must be prominently displayed to them, given to them on the first substantial meeting. It is critical. Please listen to this about the last illegal discriminatory practice. It is the final canon of ethics, which is honor all protected classes. Now, no real estate licensee shall inquire about, respond to, facilitate inquiries about, or make a disclosure that indicates any preference, limitation, or discrimination based on protected classes. Now, what are protected classes, you ask? Protected classes include race, color, religion, sex, national origin, ancestry, and familial status. Protected classes also include disabilities, like the young gentleman in the picture. Why do you need to inquire about it? The disability of an owner, previous or current occupant, potential purchaser, leaser, or potential lessees of a real property. A person with a disability includes a person who also has had or has had AIDS, HIV related illnesses, HIV infection, and that includes COVID infection, as we are currently going through, according to the Centers for Disease Control of the U.S. Public Health Service. Do what is right, not what is wrong, and it does not depend on anything other than that. Don't be let it said, I'll pay you if you use me as your realtor. I'll give you half of my commission. That, in essence, is an ethical practice. One thing for sure, TREC, Texas Real Estate Commission, takes enforcement of ethics by licensees and non-licensees when illegally practicing real estate very seriously. The common theme that runs through all of these violations include misrepresentation, deceit, dishonesty, and fraud. All of these violations of ethical business practice are definitely punished. There are so many situations where realtors practice ethics. There are some situations where they're not. So these videos show both of those situations. They're quick, but they paint a great picture of the way that you would like to experience this type of situation. And it gives you a further examination of the code of ethics and how it's followed. Everybody knows that a realtor keeps a phone in their hand. It's their lifeline to business, to new, to old, to referrals. Every broker knows that also, who is in charge of the supervision and training and development of those realtors. Now, with the digital age, there are other options for training those individuals who are new realtors and for those who come back for education credits. We have traditional, which is instructor-led, formal learning. You also now have the option for digital age options, which is informal. And since realtors keep their phones in their hands, they can use mobile learning. Another option, learning from home. In this COVID time of the environment, No one knows better than realtors and everyone in our community how learning from home has become a great option, remote learning available to all of us. We have been put in a situation where remote learning has been lended itself some of the options and advantages and disadvantages that come along with it. In this environment where we are sheltering in place, we've learned new things through remote learning and other options of learning. So have businesses, and they have employed all of those options in traditional as well as in remote learning concepts. A real estate agent communicates with their audience, with the potential and past clients through social media more than any other platform. They use social media for communication, for restoring contacts, for marketing, for learning. And brokers must do the same in training. This type of influential learning is displayed through Facebook platform of social media marketing and management. Classes can be put in that platform, which is accessible by mobile phone, Instagram, social media marketing. This is a great example of such, and LinkedIn, which is professional learning, marketing, and management. These are 21st century ideas that lead to other forms and avenues for learning that can be employed in the real estate industry and by the regular citizen. So one of the most fantastic options that we have today is mobile learning. Mobile learning is also known as M-learning. It's a new way to get access to a variety of content available online through the use of a mobile phone. It can also be the easiest way for students to get help. In fact, many schools and colleges are supporting the concept of e-learning and mobile learning. They distribute mobile phones and laptops to students and encourage them to use them for educational purposes. Although mobile learning can be fun for the children if they use it in the right way, it can be beneficial also for adults. There are many educational apps available online. They have a huge popularity for schools and for college students and for real estate agents because they constantly have the phone in their hands. So brokers should use this concept. If it's useful also for teachers and professors and instructors to learn a new topic or provide notes. And the best part, I think, of mobile learning is that many sources are present online. So if you don't get it from one place, you can search it from another on some other site. Um, so we're going to talk about all of those advantages and disadvantages of mobile learning next. I hope you've noticed how mobile learning has become so popular in the past few years. Its use has increased extensively. In fact, I want to mention some advantages and disadvantages and why it should, and some thoughts of the disadvantages also. First of all, it's definitely cost effective. You can use it anywhere and at any time. Since mobile learning is all about studying through mobile, using the internet, which would be great for real estate agents, it can be accessed from anywhere and any time in the world. And flexibility means everything to the adult learner. Covers a huge distance. The main benefit of mobile learning, other than that, is that it covers a wide array. So even if you are in, let's say, Canberra, Australia, or in California, United States of America, you can access the same content or tests at the same time or different times. Distance is not an issue with mobile learning. Also, the variety of content that you have. A lot of content is present online. Due to a huge variety, it becomes very easy for people to access it. And there's a huge amount of people from different corners of the world can access it for different topics or related to different subjects. So that's definitely a disadvantage. The disadvantages, let's look at them. Sometimes, guys, we have software issues. Yes, we do. It's an application that runs on a device, and sometimes that software issues, there's an issue with upgrading to a new version. Sometimes the system crashes, and sometimes some of the issues that hinder us from working on this software. If it crashes, of course, that's a disadvantage. Another one is with hardware issues. Unlike software, hardware uses physical devices. The physical device used can wear out after a period of time, as we know our phones do. They wear out due to overuse because we constantly have them in our hands. Dust, using the device roughly, so it does wear out. And distraction. I know I get distracted with mobile learning sometimes. It creates, because there's so much to see, social media, websites, chatting, sharing, pictures, video games. All of these things are types of distractions that waste one's time, especially when you should be learning, but it can be also beneficial. The lack of internet connection sometimes. If you have intermittent internet connection, won't work for a mobile learning, or electricity. There will be a problem sometimes in rural areas where this is the case. So these are the advantages and many disadvantages. I'm interested I'm interested in knowing, what does the research say? There was an article I looked at called Interactive Multimedia to Improve the Student's Ability of Teacher Training and Education Faculty in Learning Strategy course that applies to real estate agents and to teaching in general. In this, the focus was on 3 steps: choosing the right learning strategy and designing an instructional course. And this can be online, e-learning, mobile learning. It refers to the 3 steps by Alessi and Trollope, which are planning, design, development. All of these encompass infusing multimedia in the classrooms. In the introduction in this article, students' engagement in technology, since it's become stronger nowadays, multimedia coaching is used in imparting reasoning skills, psychomotor skills, and it unites retaining of learning substance. So why not use it? In this article, in fact, multimedia was used for a learning strategy course. The method of study refers to those 3 steps of planning, because you have to plan or you plan to fail. You have to design a course, and then development, so that all learners can be have differentiated instruction. In this course, it was collaborated by watching interactive multimedia before discussion in the classroom. And the advantage of multimedia is to track the senses, all 5 of them, and it tracks interests, which it, of course, offers engagement. We all want to be engaged. We want to have a real world connection, because it's a combination of views. In this article, it talked about sounds and movement. Multimedia, as we know, encompasses all those. The methods that they used were collection of data they gained from document analysis. They used interviews, questions, and they used tests. This evaluation gave a lot of inputs in improving the instructional material. So that was definitely valuable. Next, we'll look at the implications of that study. So in the interactive multimedia article, the implications to that 21st century workforce is that to help them understand and make more clearly the learning outcomes. That's our whole goal is stability. And one of the things they provided was an ability to do presentations and simulations, a shortened lecture time. Because if you have multimedia to enhance it, you definitely want to use it. It offered multimodal access for different learners. There's where your differentiation comes in. Students are more excited to learn because they can see video animation to simulate the content. However, there was a few limitations. All multimedia elements should be balanced according to the researchers. Books and guidebooks should not be too textual, which would be quite boring in that case. Another interesting article was by Arafat. It was called Workforce Development Through Online Experiential Learning for STEM Education. Now, that word experiential learning, from class, we know that it is learning through experience. Most people learn by doing. I know I do. We learn best by doing. In this article, there were certain components that I want you to think about. The U.S. workforce is increasingly comprised of older adults, women, and minorities who lack basic skills and are unable to acquire these skills through traditional instructor-led classrooms and training programs. So this article has approaches that are needed to provide effective training to the adult learner, which lends itself well to real estate agents, adult learners that need flexible support. These are non-traditional students who must balance work, life demands with limited educational opportunities. There is a concept I want you to listen to called contextualized teaching and learning, or better known as CTL. CTL is a form of experiential learning that blends both basic skills and occupational training together in environments that allow students to relate subject matter to real world situations. In teaching, as I'm also a teacher, you definitely want to connect the two. Real world connections to make it meaningful. If it's not meaningful, it's not valuable to that learner. Virtual CTL environments can be created to better engage students, make or provide immediate performance feedback. It reduces the training time and it improves accessibility. Now, this intervention in this article consisted of online modules with basic skills remediation blended with interactive labs. They had virtual reality exercises. And so what they did was the impact or the goal of the research was to determine whether contextualized teaching and learning, which is CTL, improved learning outcomes, particularly among the older adults. So a little bit of the background, CTL used digital technology to build recruitment networks, to improve learning outcomes and access performance. These are strategies that are online, modular curricula, and they have LMS, learning management systems, that incorporate gaming, simulation, virtual instruction, digital tutors, and real-time collaborations. I've seen this used personally in real estate brokerage instruction for new realtors. All of the CTL strategies are employed because it offers real-time collaboration between the learner and the instructor. Here we have digital instruction that has been proven to be effective for non-traditional students, all students, and they can balance the basic skills deficiencies that they have with competing demands for work-life experiences. So this works well for those students. And they have ability to relate to new skills. Realtors would learn new concepts, past concepts, real world experiences, and it'll be meaningful because it's connected to your real life and makes it valuable. And it supports the notion that workplace experience generates a demand for learning. Most of all, CTL is a strategy that engages adult learners and promotes improved skills development by helping instructors relate subject matter to real world situations. The methods that they used was they chose 342 participants and they data tracked them. Some of them use CTL, some of them different. They used all demographics. They tracked demographics, learning outcomes, and employment status. Another method used was called logistic regression model. They used pre and post test scores. And for a summary, let's look at some of the implications. What they learned from this article on workforce development is that students exposed to CTL, they received higher rates in comparison to those that were non-CTL students. Results indicated that contextual training blended with traditional online instruction. So that tells us right there, if you blend the traditional with the digital, it improves learning for most participants. CTL is proven effective also for non-traditional students, those parents, those older parents, older adults in a non-structured environment. Some of the limitations were constant analysis of scores across genres. So how do we apply what we've learned from these research projects, among others, to the practices that we use in real estate? Let's talk about that next. So, based upon what we have learned, I think in my life, I use what brings value to me. I think this applies to other adults also. You won't use it if it's not of value. So, it is incumbent upon every instructor, every broker, everyone in that position, facilitator, to bring value to our students and faculty members. Highly recommend utilizing mobile learning, as the advantages definitely outweigh the disadvantages. Be creative and innovative in the selection of your delivery methods. Mobile learning definitely assuages a stressful environment because you have flexibility. And I suggest a needs assessment prior to, just like a doctor looks at the symptoms before prescribing medicines. You definitely want to look at the data based upon the current trends. If it's in the real estate market, looking on the current trends, the market values prior to employing these methods, and a broker would do that. Some of the future studies could be focus studies, measure data with learning differences. So as it applies to every realtor to address all of the learning needs. Then how about journaling successful and non-successful attempts? Because every attempt is not successful. And we know life is a journey. It's not just a destination. Finally, now that we know this, so now what? What happens now? Based upon research, it shows that best practice of training and development, we can use a multitude of methods, but it is not the physical context or the location that matters, but the intentional context, which is the intention of use. So if mobile learning is introduced as complementary to computer desktop activities. It doesn't make sense to go all mobile for all learning and administrative activities. You can use multiple devices. However, it brings mobility and multimedia into the learning arena. So you might want to consider that. Research-based strategies with differentiated instruction are there for you. Engagement should be considered. Everybody keeps that phone in their hand and they're constantly looking down at it. They're engaged in it. And the main thing for me anyway, does it bring added value to the learner? If that's a way to bring added value and you can make it meaningful, use it. In the 21st century, in today's environment, consideration should be given to what is the cognitive level that students are in within this mobile learning activity. So as long as you are aware of all of these facets, then you will be better off as a facilitator, as a guide, and so will anyone who listens. Thank you so much for listening. References will be on the next few pages. I appreciate your time.